What's up YouTube, Capital G here, got this awesome Chaos deck for you guys to check out. This deck does some of the most improbable things that can be done in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Shout outs to Alan TCG for sending me these duels, and I mean you can just look at the opening hand and tell that it's a spicy deck because I mean half the hand is like junk stuff and then the other half is like Dark Lords and you got an Effect Veiler just kind of chilling like I don't even know why I'm here. So you can tell this is going to be kind of spicy. Dueling against Orcus in this first duel, and we're gonna go ahead and roll this. The Orcus player does not have any hand traps, so I believe that the combo should go on, or should go off I should say, unimpeded. This is a Master Rule 5 duel because you know, why not? We're getting ever closer to Master Rule 5. Ib is still such a ridiculously strong card. I'd argue that she's one of probably the top 3 strongest synchro. I think she is honestly the strongest synchro in the game. Maybe there's something that I'm missing or forgetting about, but I mean she's at the top of the totem pole when it comes to synchro summoning. Anyways, gonna go for Clawfeet. Then into a little bit of Guard Dragon stuff, not too much. Going to summon that, that was Rescue Fair, right? And this is actually going to get us our Synchro fodder. Now, a lot of Synchro summoning has to be done, and generally speaking, when you see TG Hyper Librarian, the first thing that comes to my mind, especially when you're getting tokens, is, oh, okay, well, obviously we're gonna go for Quasar here because we got the first TG Hyper Librarian, we transitioned into a second copy, and I'm like, all right, so we're gonna drop some Quasars on our opponent's face. Like, okay, I've seen this before. You know, you go for the Formula Synchron. Basically, it's a draw 3 because you draw 1-1 and then 1 from the TG Hyper Librarian, or excuse me, 1 each from Hyper Librarian and then 1 from the Formula Synchron. Like, I just assumed that we were going to drop Quasar, but no, we're actually going for a completely different route, and this is where it gets spicy. He says, Cap, I ain't about no Quasar life. I'm gonna summon Chaos Goddess. If you guys don't know, this is my favorite synchro monster in the entire game. I put this card at the top of my list of the top 10 greatest Yu-Gi-Oh! Artworks on terrible cards. I mean, she's an incredibly difficult card to use, but man, her artwork is just so absolutely amazing. I can't believe someone actually summoned this thing, and the reason he summoned it is because he's actually going to use her effect. She's so difficult to use as well because you have to discard specifically a light monster to summon a level 5 or higher dark monster from your graveyard. So he's gonna actually use this in conjunction with the Dark Lords, but you wouldn't even be able to like summon her in regular Dark Lords, not to mention in Dark Lords you really wouldn't have a lot of light fodder, so you basically have to like build a deck around her essentially. He's gonna summon Superbia from the graveyard, and would you look at this cheese, he's gonna summon the Worldo from the graveyard as well. Shout outs to Dio, and his opponent ain't getting to play no Yu-Gi-Oh! Today because his entire turn is gonna get skipped by the Worldo. He's gonna activate the effect of Chaos Goddess once again, and then he will reborn probably Superbia, because every time he reborns Superbia, it just reborns another Dark Lord monster, and this should be enough offense for him to be able to easily pull off an OTK. Not to mention, I think he still can summon a monster from his hand. His opponent has Gizmek Orochi, but I believe that he was mentally just, his mental just went boom, and I think he was so demoralized he couldn't even remember that he had the Gizmek in hand. He was just like, did I not even get a turn to play? Like, forget about getting FTK'd. This guy literally skipped my entire turn, so he's not very happy about that. Second duel, I believe, is actually going to be a run back, and you know, it's easy to skip someone's turn and to pop off and do all of that when you get to go first and the opponent ain't got no hand traps. But let's see if maybe Orcus can get off the mat and win this second game. You know, the Orcus player has basically everything that they need to combo, or as everyone says, full Orcus combo. This is before that crazy stupid broken Mech Knight Orcus monster, so you do have to take some of this lightly because you know that card was not created at this time. Goes for Babel, not for Orchestrated Crescendo, which I still think is a nuts card. I don't know why people don't go for it turn 1, but whatever. Here's the interesting thing. Going to go with the tuning first, and then activates the junk converter. That gets the opponent to use the Ash Blossom. Clearly, you don't want the opponent getting that junk synchron from their deck, because that, you know, card lets you pop off. But unfortunately, you got jebaited, bro, because he already had junk synchron in his hand. So he's just like, oh, come on, you fell for it, bro. I already had it in my hand. Now I can clearly just pop off. Now, he will still have some interruptions, as Orcus do, because he will be able to summon, I believe, Dingirsu from from the graveyard at some point to try to stop his opponent. Symbol Skeleton hits the graveyard. He will try to reborn the Dengirsu, hit a card out of his opponent's hand, or excuse me, hit a card on his opponent's field to try to stop him from comboing, but he has the Destrudo, so he's willing to pay out that life points to resolve the Ib effect and get her off field, go into some of his plays, and at this point, he's still basically going to just be able to do what he wants to do. Interesting enough, he's not going to go for the cheese that we saw in the last duel. I'm not sure that he had everything that he wanted to be able to do the same exact plays, although he is still going to Synchro summon. Goes for TG Hyper Librarian. I believe he's going to drop one more Synchro monster. I mean, you're not getting those tuner monsters for nothing, so we'll see where he goes. Second copy of TG Hyper Librarian. There will be no Formula Synchron, I can tell you that. Wait, I lied. There is a Formula Synchron. What I meant to say is there will be no Quasar Dragon. Interesting enough, I really thought he'd go for Chaos Goddess and go for the same exact play, like, you know, with the world, but instead, he's actually going to summon another TG Hyper Librarian from the graveyard and just go beatdown mode. So this is interesting. Even when you don't have the Worldo, this deck can still do a little bit of some cheese. Now the thing is, you don't really have any defensive options, or you don't have great defensive options, I should say, when you don't have access to the Worldo, but you do play some hand traps. So, you know, cards like Savaris, which is not only in here because it can protect you from things like impermanence and targeting, but it's also a light monster to discard from Chaos Goddess. He will use Effect Failure to shut down the Dengirsu, which was actually super important because if he would have resolved that, probably gets his entire board broken. He will lose some of his board, but it's not the entire board. Like, that's the main thing. I think he'll probably lose the Chaos Goddess, unfortunately. He lose that to Longirsu. And his opponent still leaves him with many opportunities, or I guess like a full board. He's going to make sure that he does not resolve Junk Converter this duel because he just hit it with Climax, and yeah, I guess he just really doesn't want him to be able to use or get that Surge. He draws Engage, but you know, can't use it because he has a monster in the main monster zone, and this is important. He's going to be able to search out the Destrudo. We saw Destrudo allow him to essentially push his plays through. This turn, it might be important as well. He lets him get the Climax Surge. I would have been tempted to Ash Blossom that. That's just me, because he was able to get the Gizmac, which kind of is going to make it so he can't kill him this turn. He is going to Synchro Summon into Cyber's Quantum Dragon, which actually can attack multiple times, so he's going to bounce and then he can attack again, but his opponent is able to block that attack with the Gizmac Orochi that he searched. That's what I'm saying. If he didn't get that search of Gizmac, if he would have just ashed it, I feel like maybe he could have won, or I don't know, maybe he still had another way of defending himself. Gizmac will be summoned again because he needs something to have on field, but he has to pass because he can't beat over these monsters. I believe that this will be the turn where he pretty much just takes control over the duel, although you can argue last turn he kind of did that. He's going to bounce Gizmac, and Gizmac will be summoned. Wait a minute. Is this the one card in deck comeback that you guys have known to or grown to love on this channel? The answer is no, it's not, because he's just going to attack for game. Anyways, yeah, that's definitely a wrap. I like it. First duel, we had the Worldo, basically just auto winning the duel. And then in the second duel, we had kind of a grind it out, get down and dirty type game where the Worldo didn't even make an appearance, but he did summon Chaos Goddess in both duels. Anyways, let's pause. Actually, no, we don't need to pause because I already have the deck. Let's go ahead and show you guys what the deck looks like on paper. Obviously, this is a super turbo build. I thought it was interesting that there was no like Called by the Graves in here. I mean, I guess everything is kind of depending on the Savaris to kind of stop the disruption your opponent's throwing at you. But I mean, in theory, I guess the hand traps like Nibiru and Psyframe Lord Gamma, not that many people run Gamma, but I still love Gamma, would basically destroy this deck anyways, and you can't use Called by the Grave on those. So I guess it kind of makes sense to not even bother with Called by the Grave. We did see him play through Ash Blossom effectively. Ash Blossom does hurt this deck because if you use something like Ishel, or if you happen to use Junk Converter, those are kind of like mini choke points to Ash Blossom your opponent, but we saw him get through that, and I think it's kind of cool to see a deck that can not only drop a super obscure Synchro monster, but then take that super obscure Synchro monster and turn it into a win condition. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed those duels. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos. And actually, one last thing, because I know that people constantly comment this and they complain, the deck list will be in the description. There will be just a straight up download link for you guys to just click and download the deck, because I get that in a lot of my duels. People are like, Cat, gee, I can't read all these dang little tiny cards, or I don't know what this card art is, don't worry guys, just go to the description and you guys can download the deck if you want to mess around and troll.